Yin Yoga, My Anatomy is kind of an anatomy, like thought out approach to Yin Yoga. And today our class is on sciatica. So this is kind of how the class got started. Greta said she had a bunch of people coming to her with issues of sciatica. So that's how we started this class. So what is sciatica? So sciatica is an injury that causes pressure on the sciatic nerve. It causes pain and weakness kind of along the nerve root. So the nerve root starts at about L4 on your back and goes down to S3, sacrum 3. The sciatic nerve is the largest nerve in the body. It actually measures about 3/4 of an inch, which is about the width of your wrist, which is pretty big, if you think about it. I'll also, along the nerve root, it can cause pain there, but it also has pain patterns. So you might find it causes pain in your knee. You also might find it causes pain right here in the front of your thigh. It is a motor nerve, so that means it stimulates muscle contraction. That's very different from our other nerves, like let's say our sensory nerves that tell us we're cold, or our autonomic nerves, which tell us to relax and stimulate our parasympathetic system. So yeah, it's gonna stimulate your muscle. When it has pressure on it, it's gonna stimulate the muscle to contract, causing likely shooting pains. The most common cause of sciatica is a herniated disc. And so I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about today before we go into class on how does one herniate a disc in their back. So the most common cause of a herniated disc, I think it said something about 80%, is due to spinal flexion. So that's when our spine goes down, not using our hips. It's all kind of in this lower lumbar region that goes down. And what that does is the little spongy discs in between our spinal cord and our spinal vertebrae, every time you kind of flex, it pushes and pushes the little disc out of the middle. And so any kind of repetitive movement could cause that disc to just slip. A lot of times when people who have sciatica talk about when they first notice it, they kind of refer like, oh, I was just, going to pick something up and I felt something slip. And then gradually over time, pain increases and sciatica happens. Another way you can get it is through traumatic impact injury. So that's if you just hit something really hard and the disc pops out. Another issue that kind of also intercepts with sciatica is something called piriformis syndrome. And piriformis syndrome is your piriformis muscle, which is this big muscle that goes across the hip, goes right underneath the sciatic nerve. And so if that is tight, it causes pressure on the nerve. And a lot of hip rotation, such as pigeon pose, is all really good. Any kind of this movement right here that brings the greater trochanter of the femur farther away from the sacrum. So anything doing that is going to stretch your piriformis. And so that's a little rundown of sciatica. The last thing I kind of want to touch on is the Indian word for sciatica. So I researched some medical studies done in India. And they use yoga a lot to treat things like nerve damage or musculoskeletal diseases and things like that. And so the word for sciatica is grid rasi, which is derived from the word gruda, which means vulture, because it says a patient suffering from the disease of sciatica walks like a vulture due to the kind of persistent migrating pain. And if you've ever seen a vulture walk, they have a very like interesting gait where they kind of hobble on one foot and go up and down. And so I just thought that was so cool that they're like, oh, like this person walks like this, kind of like that vulture outside the window or something, who knows. But that's what they call it. Gredrasi is the name. So yeah, that's another fun fact. In this class, we'll be doing a lot of hip rotation as well as a lot of hip internal rotation. And it's all going to be very gentle and very slow. The last thing you want to do with sciatica is really move quickly through things, because that could aggravate it. So this class is just a little bit longer holds and is kind of meant for really relaxing the area and focusing in on that. And then I'll pass it off to Greta to start the class, and I'll teach at one point, so you'll hear my voice again. But Greta, I'm going to unpin myself.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that information, for sharing that, Veronica. I feel like it's so easy just to like hear a word like, oh, I have sciatica, and then like but like you don't really know what's even going on in your body. So thank you for that great explanation. And before we entered into practice, I actually thought it'd be nice if we started with an Om, just to kind of connect us. I know everybody's in separate rooms. I know people are in separate states. We're in different time zones. And so taking a moment before we kind of go our own separate paths to connect. So you can find a comfortable seat, really feeling connected to the ground with your sits bones. Feel the elongation of your spine, relax down your shoulders. And let's do a couple clearing breaths, releasing any residual tension or anxiety that may have carried with you throughout the day. And then we'll do one round of Om. Inhale in through the nose. And exhale, HA. Let's do one more clearing breath. Inhale in through the nose. And exhale, HA, release. This time prepare for Om. Inhale. Inhale, breathe in. And exhale, release. And we're going to start class today in Balasana, child's pose. Oh, the Om always calls the cat. The cat always shows up. It's a good thing we only did one Om. So bringing the toes to touch. Knees can be extended. And then bringing the arms out long in front of you. Child's pose in a vinyasa class, we're often not there for quite as long. So if you wanted to bring some support, you could grab a pillow and put it under your chest. And I'm going to give a halfway mark. So if you wanted to bring one cheek to the mat and then switch halfway, I'll be doing that. I'm going to start my timer right now. And I'm just going to talk briefly about Yin. I know some people here have done this a million times. You know this practice inside and out. But if you're here for the first time, I wanted to go over both energetically what Yin is and also like anatomically the intention behind Yin. And Yin energetically is going to be the opposite of Yang energy. So it's going to be slowness. It's going to be passivity. It's going to be yielding. It's going to be dark. And sometimes it's going to be mysterious. It's everything that is associated with the dark side of the moon. And we're headed towards the new moon right now. New moon's on Friday, it's Wednesday. And so we're already like energetically there. There may be other astrological factors. I'm not an astrologer, but I do follow the moon cycle. So just noticing kind of where your energy level is. I'm feeling kind of like I'm running on fumes. Maybe it's everywhere. maybe you're feeling really energized and never want to project. So that's kind of the energetic properties associated with yin. And then in terms of anatomy and physiology, we are stressing and compressing the connective tissue, the bones, the ligaments, and the joints. And benefits to be reaped from this are bone regeneration. It prevents osteoporosis. I was just reading about bones the other day in this anatomy book, and our bones change 10% every year. So yes, there's like definitely a period when we're growing, we're children, where the bones are developing, but they're still doing that now. And so these long stresses and holds encourage bone regeneration. It also prevents shrink wrapping of the connective tissue and the fascia, and you can think of fascia as the fuzzy layer under an orange. It's not only the fuzzy layer under the orange, but it's also the casing keeping in the juice, which is like our muscles. And then there are 3 pillars. There's 3 kind of tenets, tattvas to this practice. And the first is to meet your edge. Pertinent depth to you. It may not be your full range of motion because you're going to want to be able to hold it for time. Sustainability is absolutely the name of the game. Can you hold this for 5 minutes? Like, ask yourself that question. This is the halfway point if you wanted to alternate your cheek and bring the other side to the mat if you're doing that. So finding the gentle edge. And props are definitely your friend. Like if you have a pillow around or a couch cushion, blocks can be nice. Today we're actually going to use a scarf or a strap if you have one, or like a big old sock if you have one. You could use like a sweatshirt. Really, like, props are flexible. If you have an extra yoga mat, that can be used. We want to use props to assist our practice. So meeting your edge, and then being still is the second one. Being still, I feel like, is either super easy, like you just kind of like sink into it, or it can be a real big challenge. Like once you're asked to be still, like the body just wants to fucking move. And so embracing kind of the challenge and the turbulence that comes with that, and kind of just accepting it, and using the breath as a tool. If you can direct your awareness towards the intake of oxygen, the filling up of your belly, the diaphragm going down, and then the release of CO2, and just using that process over and over again to kind of calm the thoughts if they do become super loud. And then lastly, we hold for time. I keep track of time on my phone. And we are at the final minute mark here in just 2 seconds. And the reason I give halfway marks and final minutes is just so you can more easily surrender into the pose. Veronica and I came up with the sequence. It's really designed to help with lower back pain and sciatica. And also we are close to the dark moon, so it's really slow. It's all these qualities are just like really linked up together right now. And I guess the only other things I'll say is when you do move up and out of the poses, move slowly. You don't have to rush out. And try to show up for yourself with kindness, with compassion. I know even like hearing those words sometimes it's like, ugh, but like if you actually really like think about the origin of the word, trying to treat yourself with that kindness. Okay. And gently, we've got just another few seconds in this pose. I guess I will actually add one more thing. During this pose, I talk a lot because I'm just trying to explain yin, but the rest of the practice is actually mostly practice in silence. We may incorporate some more anatomical knowledge throughout the practice, maybe some energetic insight if something comes up, but largely this practice is for you. You can use each pose as like its own meditation, and then you have a moment of transition to like re-enter into the practice. And so after the next breath, gently walk your hands back under your shoulders and start to elevate your hips up, coming into a tabletop. Stacking shoulders over wrists, hips over knees, finding a sense of neutrality in your spine. And after a long hold like that, you may want to just like kick one leg out behind you. I know that's usually what I want to do after holding child's pose. You may prefer like flowing through cat and cow, like really whatever is going to provide you with a sense of relief. It doesn't have to be anything I just mentioned. And then let the hips sink off towards one side and come to a seat. And we are going to work into the hamstrings. So coming to a seat and extend the left leg out long and bring the right leg up and over the left leg. And this has become one of my favorite stretches after running too. It feels really great. And if you do have sciatica, it is actually really excellent to sit on something. And I have found blocks for me are too high. And so like a book tends to be a better thing for me to sit up on, and then that helps my pelvic bowl tilt down. If you have a slipped or herniated disc, it is important to actually keep the spine like lifted and elevated, even though that's kind of more active. If you're not really worrying about any herniated discs, you can use a pillow or a block and then slowly fold forward. And if you put a pillow there and you're like, I don't even like feel this fold, you can remove the pillow out and continue to fold forward. And we'll be here for 3 minutes on each side. And remembering when you do arrive, it may not feel like much initially, but that's why we're here for time. It kind of builds with time. That's where the magic of this practice really is derived.
I also wanted to add that the importance of kind of working the hamstring, if you are experiencing symptoms of sciatica, is the sciatic nerve actually, so your hamstrings are made up of 3 muscles. It's a group of muscles. And the sciatic nerve actually runs through 2 of them. And so since the nerve kind of is sandwiched between them, by stretching them, we also take off some of the pressure of the nerve along its nerve root.
And this is the halfway mark. And the final minute. And gently press the hands into the mat. Slowly begin to walk the hands back towards your hip. Lift the chest. You can unthread the right leg, extend it out long. And you may kind of want to bounce the legs up and down. That's what I want to do right now. It may feel nice to kind of press your pelvis up, doing a release after a long fold like that. And then we'll switch to the other side. If you were sitting on a book, I was just sitting on a book, it like started to get like kind of uncomfortable. So I'm actually gonna put like my layer of like scarf on the edge here to like kind of cushion it. Improvising as we go along here because I don't have like a super flat block. And then we'll switch to the other side. So yeah, left leg up and over the right this time. And if you're experiencing any pain in the knee already right now, you can put like a pillow in between your legs or a block for some extra support to help get rid of that pain. And then gently move your way into the posture. And something that I didn't mention earlier that I usually say is there are two reasons in which you move in yin. And the first is if you're invited to go deeper. Sometimes it takes the muscles some time to actually become passive, and then you're invited to move deeper into the stretch. And the other reason is if you're experiencing any pain. We never want to like persevere through pain in yin. Never any sharp sensations, stabbing, burning. We even want to avoid tingling sensations because after repetition that could cause nerve damage. So listening to the body and really engaging with that dialogue. If the body is telling you to stop, stop. And we're just past the halfway mark here. Maybe scanning your body, noticing if you're holding tension anywhere, relaxing the jaw, removing the tongue from the roof of your mouth, unfurrowing your brow, unclenching your butt. Like there's lots of places the body holds tension kind of without us even thinking about it. But then once you direct your attention there, you're like, oh shit, like I was clenching my butt cheeks, you know? And it's like, oh my God, nobody wants to talk about butts, but that's a very real place where people hold tension. And we are just past the final minute here. And gently decide how you would like to exit the pose. Maybe you'd like to walk the hands back towards your hip first and then use those to press your chest up. Unthreading the leg, taking any organic movement the body's craving. After a fold, you may want to do this sort of like tabletop kind of thing. If you want to extend the legs out, press the pelvis up, bounce the legs out. The release is definitely kind of the best part of yin, or it can be like that sometimes. And find your way to your back. We're gonna practice banana asana next. And banana asana looks a lot like a crescent shape. So I'll come on my back as well and really feel your pelvis rooted and centered on your mat. That is the center here, kind of the anchor of the pose. And slowly begin to walk your feet towards the right. And also move your chest towards the right, coming into a crescent shape. Once you get here, you can bring the left leg up and over the right leg. That on my body feels really excellent. I know we have a friend that practices in LA. They swear by their right leg going over the left. It helps them feel more grounded. You can try that out. Maybe that's also you. And then for the arms, you can bring the arms overhead in a square over your head, grasping for opposite elbow. And usually for me, after a while, my arms actually like start to feel like they're falling asleep. So you can put your arms on top of your forehead at that point, or you can kind of set yourself up and put a pillow behind so your arms can rest on top of the pillow. Or you can bring the arms down by your side if they start to fall asleep. And we're going to be in Banana Asana for 3 minutes. We're going to do this hold for 3 minutes. And actually, Veronica was going to take over this part of class, and I totally just barreled on through. Thumbs up. You're like, I want a banana asana, it's fine. Also, I wish that you could see Jonathan is practicing here as well, and he's literally wearing all yellow. He like straight up is a banana. I should get a picture. And this is the halfway point. And the final minute. Bernie Clark has these really great videos online about yin, and I've shared this about this pose in the past. But I was under the impression that the IT band was a muscle, just for whatever reason I thought that. And the IT band runs along the outside of the thigh from just above the hip to just below the knee. And it's made up of mostly fascia, which is what we're trying to get into right now. And when people like are experiencing, they're like, oh, I want to stretch my IT band. What they really want to stretch is like the muscles connected to the IT band, which are the glutes and the tensor fascia latae, which is not a fancy beverage. And also the obliques, external, internal obliques. And so you're really getting into all those muscles right now. And like, I love banana asana for that reason, because we're like, when else are you like stretching the side of your body like that for 4 minutes? It's just such a boon. All right, so gently come back to center, bringing the hands above you, walking the feet back towards center. And then we will mosey our way over towards the other side. So scooch the legs over towards the left, arms towards the left. Pelvis is staying anchored this whole time. Getting into the side body. And I'm gonna reset the timer and leave you to practice. And this is the halfway point right here. And Veronica included a banana note on the document. And I'm sure she could do a better job explaining this than me. But banana asana is good for the sacral plexus. The sciatic nerve is formed in the sacral plexus along with the gluteal nerve, holds an intimate relationship to the ovaries, digestion, and is important to sciatica because often pathologies like endometriosis, where the ovary tissues that normally line the uterus grows outside the uterus, can trigger vascular compression in the sacral plexus and therefore cause stress of the sciatic nerve. It's also a very relaxing and stress relieving pose and can help reduce hip tension. And slowly begin to make your way back towards center. Just taking little movements with the heels, uncrossing the legs if you cross them, bringing the arms back down by your sides and coming to a neutral spine. If there's any little release movements you want to do, you are welcome to take them. And Veronica is going to guide us through the next few poses.
Thank you, Greta. I like in myself. Okay. So our next pose is going to be called cat pulling its tail. And so from here, lying down, we're going to start by rolling over onto our right side. So kind of in like this very fetal position, very neutral. Keeping our right leg straight, we're going to take our left leg kind of forward and in front of us like we were to do a spinal twist, but we're not lying on our spine. And I should also add, this is actually a good time to grab a scarf or a strap if you have one. If you're bendy, you could probably grab your foot. But we're going to be here lying on our side, right leg straight, left leg over. And then we're going to begin to bend our right leg at the knee, bringing it closer, the right foot closer to the butt. And then if you want to take your strap and put it over your right foot, holding it with your left hand, that'll kind of help with bringing a stretch right to the front of the right thigh. If the twist is too much here, you can simply roll back onto your back and you still get this quad stretch that we're going for. But personally, I kind of like the twist. It adds a little extra layer to the pose, allowing kind of the internal organs, the small intestine, all that stuff to kind of get a little bit of a rinse. And we're not going to hold this one very long either. It's also a 3-minute pose. This pose really stretches the psoas as well in the front of the quad, which is something that sometimes there's referral pain, or if you've been sitting for long hours, this is a good way to get a stretch in with that. And again, you want to be gentle, so if anything's tingling or if there's pain in your knee, simply move out of it a little bit. This is the halfway mark. Final 30 seconds. All right, begin to gently release the strap or your hold on your foot. Bringing the right leg out long, bringing the left leg to meet it on its side. And moving slowly, roll back onto your back and a neutral spine. And take any counter movement again you want here. I kind of love the counter movements in Yin. I almost look forward to them just as much as the poses, because I think they hold just as much as importance. It's kind of a reset. So I'm going to hug my legs into my chest. If you want to kick the legs out, I see Greta's doing something really cool. Legs up in the air, that's all good too. And when you're ready, we're going to do it on the left side. So go ahead and roll over to the left. Left arm out long, left leg out long. And then you're going to take your right leg and again fold it over like you were doing a spinal twist. Bending the left knee, bringing the left foot closer to the butt. Wrapping your scarf or grabbing for the left foot. And creating that nice stretch, small backward bend going on here. As well, spinal extension. Like I said earlier, spinal flexion is kind of the thing that causes, herniated discs. And you still want to, even if you have a herniated disc, you can still practice spinal flexion. You just don't want to move too quickly through it. So Yin's a good answer for that. And you definitely want to practice some spinal extension as well. This is our halfway point. If you need to readjust anything, again, if you need to roll back on a neutral spine, still holding the leg, you're still getting that quad stretch just without the twist. We'll be here for a little bit while longer. Tapping into the kind of cooler night energy that Yin brings. All right, taking one more deep breath in. And on the exhale, let go of that left foot, bringing it back out long. Turn back over to be on your left side. For right now, it might feel good to just kind of stay in that fetal child's pose and kind of take in that twist. But whatever feels good, move slowly. Come back to the back of your mat, lying down with a neutral spine. And I'm going to suggest we all bring our knees in to give them a little hug into our chest. Adding a little bit of compression here. And then we're going to release, and our next pose is reclined pigeon. So I'm going to start with the right leg, taking a bend and putting it almost like a T shape over the left leg, which is going to be kind of lifted parallel to the floor. Now you want to kind of reach your hands through this pinhole that you've created and grab for the back of the left thigh. There's also a variation if you still have your scarf nearby to grab the top of the left shin bone and just hold it right there. Another option, if this is pinchy or this is not feeling good, is to simply lower the left leg, maybe bringing the foot as close as you can to the butt and having your leg out like this. And I'm actually going to take that today because my hips are wildly tight today. And this is kind of a bit of a longer hold, so we really want to find a comfortable place here. Hip rotation, especially external rotation, can be pretty sticky. Can feel like a lot is kind of wound up in there. So again, you kind of want to meet that gentle edge that Greta was referring to in the beginning, where it's just enough where you can feel it, but not too much that it's painful. The last thing we want to do is try to relax into pain. Sounds hard to do. Rather, we should relax into a point where we know we could breathe through the pain to experience the relief that it can bring. All right, this is our halfway point. If you need to reassess your edge, maybe go deeper into the stretch or maybe come a little bit out of it, whatever feels best. This is the time to do it. Again, we're bringing that piriformis muscle. We're getting a stretch in there. So whether we have sciatica or not, we're taking some pressure off of that nerve right now. It's also working the glute medius and glute minimus in the hip. All those muscles that get tight from sitting and driving. And the reason we chose to do pigeon on the back for this pose was intentional. You're always welcome to do half pigeon kind of as a forward fold, but the reason we chose the back is because it's less pressure on the knees, keeps your spine really neutral and relaxed and very cool, and just allows for a little more focus, I think, on the hips, allowing a little bit more of gravity to take your hips down rather than gravity to kind of have your torso provide weight on your hips. All right, moving slowly, gently release the grip you have on your legs. Taking a nice stretch here. Ooh. Maybe windshield wiper the legs. Oh, my hips are tight. I wonder what I did. Anything that feels good. And then we'll move on to the left side. So this time taking your left ankle over the right knee, pulling the right leg up so your shin is parallel, your thigh is sticking up straight. Hands go through this little hole that you made to grab the back of the right leg, pulling the foot in, or you can grab for the top again, or again, you can place the foot down and just have the hip open up into this gentle external rotation. Each side is going to feel different, so whatever feels good on this side is probably what's good for this side. We'll be here for 4 minutes. This is our halfway point. If you need to reassess your edge, maybe sink deeper, maybe come out a little. All right, moving slowly. Go ahead and release the leg. And whatever grip you had, taking whatever stretch feels best. I'm coming closer to the end now, where we have kind of, I guess we don't have king poses in yoga, but this is our king pose. So come on and move up to a seat, sitting up, and then we're gonna move, or actually I guess you don't have to move up to a seat. You can actually simply roll over and get onto your belly, because we're gonna lie face down and do a sleeping baby. And so this pose we get on our bellies. Any pillows would be wonderful at this point. Either a pillow under your head. But what we're gonna do is lying on your belly, starting with your right leg, take it out to the side, like this, and simply rest your head down. Left leg is out long. Exercising the kind of internal rotation of the hip here. So this is going to be our longest hold. I'm going to do it for 5 minutes on each side. And this is also, we've put the hip in kind of its 4 major movements today. We had it in flexion, in child's pose. We had it in extension for both. The cat pulling its tail was a good extension, but also banana asana in that lateral stretch. You do exercise some of those extensors very, very lightly. We did external rotation of the hip in pigeon, and now this is our internal rotation. So a little shout out to our hips tonight, all while we relatively kept a neutral spine. My very favorite thing about this pose, though, is it just brings the most rest and relaxation of all time because it's just so comforting. And like I said, if you have pillows, feel free to prop yourself under those pillows. But we'll just hold the rest of this for time in silence. And I'll let you know halfway cues and when to come out. Halfway point. Final minute. Moving slowly, gently bring that right leg back to meet the left. And don't really need to do a lot of counter pose here. Just simply turn your cheek to lay the right cheek down on the mat. Left leg goes out like a frog. Right leg out straight, lower down, and relax. halfway mark. And this is our final minute. All right. Moving slowly. Bring the left leg back to meet the right. Press your hands into the mat if you want to roll around. If you want to move into a tabletop, maybe do some cat-cows. And Greta here is going to close this out. So this is where my voice goes away.
I could have done that pose forever. So come to laying on your backs, and we're gonna still class out with a twist on both sides and then Shavasana, final rest. So coming to lay on the back, if you're on your belly, it may be hard to flip over, especially after how much relaxation and kind of just sinking into the earth. But coming to lay on the back, and as you come down, bring your scarf or bring your strap or whatever you're using with you. Come to laying on the back, plant the left foot down and wrap the scarf around the arch of your foot. You can bend your knee so you can get it under the arch, and then extend the foot if it feels like a safe range of motion here. And we're actually going to check the time, how much time we have. We're going to hold this for just a moment here. And similar to that hamstring stretch at the beginning of class, may feel really nice. And then with the right hand, grab the scarf and let the right leg fall out towards the right. Ooh, yeah, feels good. Get into the adductors. And I just noticed right now I was super duper clenching my right butt cheek, so relaxing the right glutes, finding tension where it's held in the body and letting that go. And then go ahead and bring the leg back towards center. And we're gonna make our way into a twist. So let the right leg fall towards the left, coming to lay kind of on the left side. And from here, I would kind of experiment with either the length of your strap. So for me, I'm actually going to bring it a little bit, my foot a little bit closer to my face. That feels like really awesome in my calf and in my hamstrings. And towards the end of class, we save the twist to kind of help recalibrate the spine and bring us back to a sense of neutrality, homeostasis, realignment before we continue into the rest of the evening. And then go ahead and bring the right leg back up towards center. Release the scarf, plant the right foot down, and then wrap the scarf around the arch on the left foot. And you can take a moment right now just to feel the sensation, maybe belly of the hamstring. And then let the leg fall out towards the left. And it may stop. This side may be tighter. It may be kind of the same range of motion you had on the other side. Foot definitely does not have to touch the ground. Just feeling where your edge is and stopping where the body kind of meets that tension where it's like, okay, like this is your boundary. You don't need to push through it. And then bring the left leg back towards center and we'll twist on the other side. You can extend the right leg out long. It might be nice to kind of get that out of the way. I have like a bunch of obstacles at the table. We're bringing the right leg towards the right side. And the leg doesn't have to be all the way straight. It can work towards straight knee. But with the extension of the scarf, kind of the scarf is serving as an extension of your arm, it might be able to get all the way straight. And then you can pull the left foot in towards your face. Of course, it's not going to touch your face. It's just headed in that direction. And relaxing the forehead, relaxing the jaw. It's amazing how quickly that tension builds back up. And then bring left leg back towards center. Release the scarf down. And come into a ball shape, Apanasana. You can even wrap your arms around your shins here. And release into Shavasana, final rest. You can always take Shavasana on the belly or on your side. And before entering into Shavasana, just taking a moment to feel the points of contact between the ground and the floor. And today for Shavasana, either choosing to kind of release into the earth and let go of any like anxiety or doubt and just letting it sink into the earth, knowing that the earth can handle that energy. Or if you want to pull energy up from the earth, knowing there's roots down there, there's fungi down there, there's like worms and stuff, like maybe there's energy you want to pull up from the ground. Maybe it's kind of you're striking a balance between the two, but really feeling connected and grounded in your Shavasana. And I'll let you know when it's time to come up and out of the practice. And if the mind wanders, coming back to that sense of being held. And slowly begin to invite movement back into your body. It can be really subtle, maybe wiggling of the fingers, nose, maybe bounce the legs, oscillate the ankles around. And bring the arms above, stretching, and knees towards your chest. And seeing that this is a yin class and we've been practicing all these lunar qualities of receptivity and deep listening, slowing down, I would recommend rolling towards the left side. It's associated with those qualities. We're also at the end of the day. I literally just got a notification from CoStar telling me it's important to wind down at the end of the day. So I feel like left, if you're feeling it, is a good way to go. Right tends to be more associated with like active qualities. Using the bicep like a pillow and coming into this fetal position, extending gratitude to yourself for showing up and doing a practice that really goes against the grain in a lot of ways in what's encouraged in the fitness world. It's not an active like run around practice, but it is really powerful medicine. Especially I always feel like I'm doing my future self such a solid with every yin practice that I engage with. And I always feel like my connective tissue, like that 4th minute in half pigeon, it's like, oh my God, it's like sending me so many waves of appreciation. So hopefully you're feeling that also in your body. I also always like to honor the lineage of this practice, and yoga has its roots in India, and the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and Bhagavad Gita and all those texts. But this is also a yin class, so it also is taking elements from Taoist theory and Chinese medicine and integrating it into this kind of slow, very anatomical focused class. So thank you for showing up and doing something so good for your lower back and hoping to ameliorate your pain in the sciatica world. And we always like to close class out with a land acknowledgement. We wrote this at the very beginning when we started this class. This class comes to you from the East Coast and the West Coast. We honor the unceded ancestral lands of the Duwamish people and also the unceded ancestral lands of the Lapade, Canarsie, and Rockaway people. The land we occupy is on the traditional territory of Coast Salish peoples in Seattle and Lapade people in Brooklyn. We honor the indigenous traditions of the ancestors. and also the people here present today who carry those traditions forward. Gently press yourself up to a seat, and we'll meet with hands at heart center. This gesture in yoga, it represents non-dualism. So it's the coming together of the yang forces in our life and the yin forces, and the yin that we just nurtured and spent time generating is there to balance out all of that yang intensity that goes on in our day-to-day life. And meeting at the heart's compassionate center, and then bringing hands from heart center to third eye, seat of intuition, clarity, and vision, and bowing forward to seal in your practice, honoring all parts of self, both light and dark, luminous and shadowy. And peace, thank you so much for being here. If you ever have any feedback for Veronica and I, we always want to hear it. I've really been looking forward to this class on Wednesdays. It's become a real staple in my week. I'm gonna enter in my Venmo information in this chat box here. All posers classes are pay we can, suggested donation 10 to 25. Veronica and I, of course, split this class because we've been collaborating